It was a sunny Saturday morning on my little farm. The sun was big and bright in the sky, shining down on everything like a giant happy light. My name's Jake, and I'm just a regular guy who loves a few simple things. I love wide open spaces where I can stretch my arms out and not bump into anything. I love fresh air that smells clean and sweet, not like stinky city smoke. And I love my animals, they're like my buddies. I've got cows that go moo and munch on grass all day. I've got chickens that cluck and peck at the dirt, laying eggs for me to eat. And I've got a big red barn that's super special. That barn? It's been in my family for years and years, like, way before I was even born. My grandpa built it with his own hands, and my dad took care of it, and now it's mine. It's tall and strong, with red paint that's a little chipped but still pretty cool. I live on this farm all by myself, and I like it that way. It's quiet out here. No loud cars, no yelling people, just the sound of the wind and my animals talking to each other. Most folks in the neighborhood know I like my peace. They wave at me when they drive by, but they don't stop to bother me. They're nice enough, I guess. They live in houses all lined up in a row, with little yards and fences, just a short walk from my farm. Those houses are part of something called the Homeowners Association, or HOA for short. The HOA is like a club that makes rules for those houses, like how tall your grass can grow or what color you can paint your door. But my farm? It's not part of that club. It's separate, free, and all mine. No silly rules for me. But there was one person who didn't get it. Her name was Karen. Oh boy, Karen was not like the others. She was the head of the HOA, which means she was the boss of all those rules. She walked around with her nose in the air, acting like she was in charge of everything. Not just the houses, but the whole world, or at least, my little corner of it. Karen had short hair that was always perfect, and she wore fancy clothes like she was going to a big party every day. She carried a clipboard all the time, writing stuff down and pointing at things she didn't like. And for some reason, she kept looking at my farm. My farm. The one place that wasn't hers to boss around. I'd see her sometimes, standing at the edge of my land, staring. She'd frown at my barn like it made her mad. She'd squint at my cows like they were doing something wrong. Once, she even yelled over the fence, "Jake, your grass is too long." I just waved and said, "It's a farm, Karen. Cows like it that way." She huffed and walked off, but I could tell she didn't like that answer. She didn't like that I didn't have to follow her rules. My farm was outside her little HOA world, and that bugged her. It bugged her a lot. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who likes trouble. I'm pretty chill. I wake up early, feed my animals, fix stuff around the farm, and watch the sun go down. That's my life, and I love it. I don't bother anyone, and I don't want anyone bothering me. Most days, that's how it goes. The sun shines, the chickens cluck, and everything's good. But that Saturday? That sunny, happy Saturday? It was different. Way different. Something was about to happen, something so big, so crazy, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And it all had to do with Karen. Sneaky, bossy Karen. It started like any other morning. I woke up when the sun peeked through my window. I rubbed my eyes, yawned, and pulled on my boots. My dog, Buddy, was already wagging his tail, ready to follow me outside. Buddy's a good dog, brown and fluffy, with big eyes that always look happy. He's my best pal on the farm. "Come on, Buddy," I said, scratching his ears. "Let's go see the animals." We stepped out onto the porch, and the air was warm and nice. The sky was blue, with a few puffy white clouds floating around like cotton balls. I took a deep breath and smiled. It was going to be a good day. Or so I thought. I walked over to the chicken coop first. The chickens were clucking and flapping their wings, excited to see me. I tossed them some corn from a bucket, and they pecked at it like it was the best treat ever. "There you go, ladies," I said, chuckling. Then I headed to the pasture where my cows were hanging out. They're big, slow animals with soft brown fur and lazy eyes. I checked their water trough to make sure it was full, then gave them some hay to chew on. They mooed at me, nice and calm. Everything was normal. Peaceful. Just how I liked it. After that, I decided to check on the barn. I walked across the yard, my boots crunching on the gravel path. The barn loomed up ahead, big and red and sturdy. It's got a wide door that slides open, and inside, it's full of stuff: hay bales, tools, and a little tractor I use to mow the fields. I love that barn. It's like the heart of my farm. I got closer and slid the door open just to peek inside. Everything looked fine. The hay was stacked neat, the tools were hanging on the wall, and the tractor was parked in its spot. I nodded to myself. Good old barn, I said, patting the wooden wall. Then I slid the door shut and turned back to the house. Time for some breakfast, I thought. Maybe eggs and toast. Simple and yummy. But then I heard it. A sound. A weird sound. It wasn't the wind or the animals. It was voices. Lots of voices. I stopped walking and tilted my head, listening hard. Yep, there they were, people talking, laughing, shouting. And it was coming from somewhere close. Real close. Like, on my farm close. I frowned. What's that about? I mumbled to Buddy. He barked once, his ears perking up. I started walking toward the noise, my heart beating a little faster. Was someone lost? Did a neighbor need help? I had no idea. But I was about to find out. As I got closer to the front of my farm, the part that faces the road, I saw something that made my jaw drop. People. Tons of people. They were all over my yard. There were tables set up with red checkered tablecloths. There were chairs scattered around, some with folks sitting in them. There was a big grill puffing smoke into the air, and I could smell meat cooking. Kids were running around, chasing each other and yelling. Music was playing from a little speaker, all bouncy and loud. It was a party. A party. On my farm. And I didn't know a single person there. I stood there, blinking, trying to figure out what was happening. Who were these people? Why were they here? Did I forget something? Like, did I invite them and not remember? No way. I'd never do that. I like my quiet Saturdays. This was nuts. And then I saw her. Karen. She was right in the middle of it all, waving her arms like she was directing traffic. She had on a bright yellow shirt and a big sun hat, and she was shouting orders. Put the drinks over there, she yelled at a guy holding a cooler. No, no, the napkins go on that table, she snapped at a lady carrying a stack of paper plates. She was running the show. My show. On my land. I took a step closer, still not believing my eyes. Karen didn't just bring a party to my farm, she'd gone all out. There were balloons tied to my fence. There were streamers hanging from my trees. And oh no, she'd opened my barn. The big sliding door was wide open, and people were walking in and out like it was a store. I saw a lady carry a tray of burgers inside. I saw a guy plug in a blender on my workbench. A blender. In my barn. They were using it like a kitchen. My special, family barn was full of strangers, and Karen was acting like she owned the place. My stomach flipped. I felt hot and mad all at once. This wasn't okay. This was my farm, not hers. She didn't ask me. She didn't even say hi. She just took over, bold as anything, like it was no big deal. I wanted to march over and yell, "Get out!" But I didn't. Not yet. I stood there, watching, my brain spinning. How did she pull this off? Why did she think she could? And what was she going to do next? I didn't know. But one thing was for sure, this was about to get wild. Really wild. Karen had no clue what she'd started, and I wasn't going to let it slide. What was she up to? You'll find out soon, because this story? It's just getting started. Karen had no clue what she'd started, and I wasn't going to let it slide. What was she up to? You'll find out soon, because this story? It's just getting started. I took a deep breath and rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I was seeing things. Maybe this was a dream, and I'd wake up any second with Buddy licking my face. But nope. I pinched my arm, and it hurt. This was real. Super real. My yard was full of people I didn't know, eating food, playing games, and treating my farm like it was some big park. And Karen? She was the star of it all. She stood there with her clipboard, checking things off like this was her big plan all along. I could hear her loud voice over the music. "Make sure the burgers don't burn," she shouted at a guy by the grill. "We need more ice over here," she called to someone else. She was bossing everyone around, and they were listening like she was the queen. Buddy barked again, looking up at me with his big, confused eyes. "Yeah, I don't get it either, boy," I said, patting his head. I started walking closer, my boots crunching louder on the gravel. My heart was thumping fast now, like a drum in my chest. I wasn't sure what to do yet, but I had to figure this out. This was my farm. My home. My quiet, happy place. And Karen had turned it into, what? A circus? A picnic? Whatever it wasn't okay. Not even a little bit. As I got nearer, I could see more of what was going on. There were at least 20 people, maybe more. Some were grown-ups, some were kids. The kids were kicking a ball around, and it rolled right into my flower bed. I'd planted those flowers myself, little yellow ones that took weeks to grow. Now they were squashed, and the kids didn't even notice. Over by the grill, a guy was flipping burgers, laughing with his friends. Smoke was drifting up into the air, and it smelled good, I'll admit, but it wasn't supposed to be here. The tables had piles of food on them: hot dogs, chips, cookies, and big pitchers of lemonade. It looked like a real party, the kind you see in movies. But I didn't want a movie. I wanted my peaceful Saturday back. Then I looked at my barn again, and my stomach twisted even more. The big door was still wide open, and I could see inside now. There were people standing around my workbench, the one where I fix stuff. They'd pushed my tools to the side to make room for plates and cups. A lady was cutting up watermelon right where I usually hammer nails. And that blender? It was whirring loud, mixing something fruity while a guy poured it into plastic cups. They'd even strung up little lights inside, twinkling like it was Christmas. My barn wasn't a barn anymore, it was a kitchen. A party room. Karen's party room. I stopped walking and just stared. How did this happen? How did Karen get all these people here without me knowing? I mean, yeah, I'd been asleep until the sun came up, but still this took work. She must have planned it. She must have told everyone to come early, set up tables, bring food, and sneak onto my land like it was no big deal. But why? Why my farm? She had a whole neighborhood full of yards and houses. Why didn't she use one of those? I didn't get it. Not yet. But I was starting to feel something hot inside me, something like anger mixed with shock. This wasn't just rude. This was bold. Super bold. And sneaky, too. I remembered all the times Karen had bothered me before. She'd knock on my door sometimes, telling me my fence was too old or my chickens were too noisy. I'd just nod and say, "Okay, Karen," then close the door. She'd leave little notes in my mailbox, stuff like, "Please trim your trees, they're an eyesore." My trees. They're big and shady and perfect for sitting under. I never listened to her, because I didn't have to. My farm wasn't part of her HOA. She had no power here. Or so I thought. But now. Now she was acting like she owned it. Like she could do whatever she wanted. And that made me mad. Buddy stayed close to me, sniffing the air. He could smell the food, too, and his tail wagged a little. "No, Buddy," I whispered. "That's not for us." I looked around, trying to spot anyone I knew. Maybe one of my neighbors could explain this. But all I saw were strangers. People in bright shirts and hats, chatting and eating like they belonged here. I even saw a guy toss a chicken bone into my grass. My grass. I wanted to yell, "Pick that up." But I didn't. I was still too stunned. Too confused. Too everything. Then Karen saw me. Her eyes locked onto mine from across the yard. She was holding a big spoon, stirring something in a bowl. For a second, she froze like she didn't expect me to be there. But then she smiled. A big, fake smile, like the kind you see on TV ads. She put the spoon down, wiped her hands on her apron, and started walking toward me. Her sun hat bobbed with every step, and her clipboard was tucked under her arm. "Oh, Jake," she called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "There you are. I was wondering when you'd show up." Show up? Show up to what? This was my farm. I didn't have to show up anywhere, I lived here. But she kept talking, acting all friendly like we were best buddies. "Isn't this great?" she said, waving her hand at the party. The HOA needed a big space for our summer barbecue, and your farm is just perfect. Look at all this room. I knew you wouldn't mind. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was a tricky smile. A sneaky one. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I was too shocked. She knew I wouldn't mind? How? She didn't ask me. Not once. She didn't call, didn't knock, didn't even leave one of her bossy notes. She just took over. Like it was her right. Like my farm was hers to use whenever she wanted. I could feel my face getting hot. My hands clenched into fists. Karen, I finally said, my voice low, what are you doing here? She laughed like I'd said something funny. Oh, Jake, don't be silly. We're just having a little fun. It's a barbecue. Everyone loves a barbecue. You should join us. Grab a burger. She pointed at the grill, where the guy was still flipping meat. Some people turned to look at me, smiling like I was part of this. But I wasn't. I didn't want to be. This wasn't my party. This was my home, and she'd stolen it. I shook my head. Karen, this is my farm. You can't just. But she cut me off, waving her hand like I was a fly buzzing around her. Relax, Jake. It's just one day. No big deal. Look how happy everyone is. She turned away, already yelling at someone to bring more cups. She didn't even wait for me to finish. She didn't care what I thought. She never did. I stood there, watching her walk back to her party. My party, I guess at least, that's what she thought. The music kept playing. The kids kept running. The smoke kept drifting. And my barn, my big, red, family barn, was still full of strangers. I could hear the blender going again, whirring away. My tools were probably buried under trays of food by now. My quiet morning was gone. My peace was gone. Karen had taken it all, and she didn't even blink. But something inside me shifted. I wasn't just mad anymore, I was done. Done with her nosy looks. Done with her bossy notes. Done with her thinking she could walk all over me. This was my farm, and I wasn't going to let her win. Not today. Not ever. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing: Karen had messed with the wrong guy. What was she up to? Oh, she had no idea what was coming. This story was about to get wild, really, really wild. Stick around, because you won't believe what happens next. Karen had been eyeing my farm for weeks. I'd see her all the time, walking slow past my fence with her clipboard hugged tight to her chest. She'd stop and stare at my land, her lips moving like she was talking to herself. Muttering stuff about rules and standards, big words she loved to use. She'd squint at my big red barn, frown at my cows chewing grass, and shake her head at my chickens clucking around. It was like she thought everything I had was wrong, even though my farm wasn't part of her silly homeowners association, or HOA. My place was free, no rules, no bossy Karen telling me what to do. But she didn't like that. Not one bit. I'm Jake, by the way. I live on this little farm all by myself, and I love it. It's quiet and peaceful, with wide open fields and fresh air. I've got animals, cows that moo, chickens that lay eggs, and a dog named Buddy who follows me everywhere. My farm's been in my family forever, and I take good care of it. Most folks in the neighborhood leave me alone. They know I don't like fuss. When Karen walked by, I'd just wave at her from my yard, nice and friendly. Morning, Karen. I'd say, tossing corn to my chickens. She'd wave back, but her smile was tight like she was mad about something. I didn't know what, so I'd just keep feeding my animals, trying to stay out of her way. I didn't want trouble. I just wanted my quiet life. But Karen? She wasn't the stay out of the way type. She was the head of the HOA, which meant she was in charge of all the houses down the road. She loved rules. Loved telling people what to do. Cut your grass, she'd yell at someone. Paint your mailbox, she'd tell another. She'd scribble stuff on her clipboard and march around like she owned the whole world. And lately, she'd been looking at my world, my farm, way too much. I'd catch her standing by my fence, tapping her pen on that clipboard, her eyes narrow and sneaky. Once, she even shouted over, "Jake, your barn's too messy. It's an eyesore." I just laughed and said, It's a barn, Karen. It's supposed to look like that. She huffed and stomped off, but I could tell she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. That went on for weeks. Every few days, there she'd be walking, staring, muttering. I started wondering what she wanted. Did she think my farm should join her HOA? Did she want my land for something? I didn't know, but it made me a little nervous. My farm was mine, not hers. She had no say here. No power. Still, she kept coming back, like a mosquito that won't buzz off. I'd see her shadow by my gate when I was fixing fences. I'd hear her voice when I was watering my garden. Jake, those cows are too loud, she'd call. Jake, trim that tree, she'd nag. I'd just wave and keep working, pretending I didn't care. But deep down, it was starting to bug me. Why couldn't she leave me alone? Then came that Saturday. That big, crazy Saturday. It started normal enough. The sun woke me up, shining bright through my window. I yawned, stretched, and pulled on my boots. Buddy was already wagging his tail, ready for our morning routine. Let's go, boy, I said, scratching his fluffy head. We stepped outside, and the air was warm and nice. I fed my chickens, checked on my cows, and took a peek in the barn. Everything was good. Calm. Just how I liked it. I was about to head back inside for some eggs and toast when I heard it noise. Loud noise. Not the usual farm sounds, like birds chirping or wind blowing. This was different. Voices. Lots of voices. Music, too bouncy and loud. And then I smelled something. Smoke. Thick, meaty smoke, like someone was cooking nearby. I froze. What's that? I mumbled to Buddy. He barked, his ears perking up. My heart started beating faster. Something was wrong. Really wrong. I turned toward the noise, and that's when I saw it. My eyes got big, and my mouth dropped open. My front yard, the big, green space where I play fetch with Buddy, was full of people. Strangers. They were everywhere. Tables were set up with red checkered cloths. Chairs were scattered around, some with folks sitting in them. There was a grill in the middle, puffing smoke into the sky. Kids were running around, laughing and shouting. Balloons were tied to my fence. Streamers hung from my trees. It was a barbecue party right on my land. I blinked hard, thinking maybe I was still asleep. But I wasn't. This was real. I stepped off my porch, my boots hitting the ground slow and shaky. The noise got louder as I walked closer. Music blared from a little speaker, some happy song I didn't know. People were chatting and eating, holding plates of burgers and hot dogs. I could see chips and cookies on the tables, and big pitchers of lemonade dripping with cold water. It looked fun, I guess, if it wasn't my yard. But it was. And I didn't invite anyone. Not a single person. Then I saw something worse. Way worse. My barn, my big, red, special barn, had its door wide open. People were walking in and out like it was a store. I squinted and saw a lady inside, stirring a bowl on my workbench. A guy was plugging in a blender, making it whir loud with some pink drink. They turned my barn into a kitchen. My barn. The place where I keep hay and tools, not food and blenders. I felt my stomach twist, like I'd eaten something bad. This wasn't right. This was my place, and they were messing it up. I kept walking, my legs feeling heavy. That's when I saw her, Karen. She was right in the middle of it all, standing by the grill with a big spatula in her hand. Her yellow shirt was bright, and her sun hat flopped as she moved. She was flipping a burger, smiling like she was the happiest person alive. Her clipboard was on a table nearby, next to a stack of napkins. She looked up and saw me coming. For a second, her eyes got wide like she was surprised. But then she smirked. A sneaky, little smirk, like she knew something I didn't. I stopped a few feet away, staring at her. The noise faded a little, but my head was spinning. Karen, I said, my voice quiet but hard. What's going on? She flipped the burger again, not even looking at me. Oh, Jake, she said, all cheery and fake. This place is perfect for our little event. You don't mind, right? She finally glanced at me, still smirking, like it was a joke. Like she hadn't just taken over my whole farm without asking. I was stunned. My mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Perfect for her event? My farm? I didn't say yes to this. I didn't even know about it. She didn't call me, didn't knock on my door, didn't send a note, nothing. She just showed up with her people and her grill and her dumb balloons, acting like she owned everything. I could feel my face getting hot. My hands curled into fists. I was mad, really, really mad. But I didn't yell. Not yet. I took a deep breath and kept my voice steady. Karen, this is my land. You can't just do this. She laughed. Laughed. Like I'd said something silly. Oh, Jake, relax, she said, waving her spatula. It's just a barbecue. No big deal. Everyone's having fun. She turned back to the grill, flipping another burger, like that was the end of it. Like I didn't matter. But I did matter. This was my home, and she was stomping all over it. She didn't care. She never cared. And that's when I knew this wasn't just a party. This was a fight. A quiet fight, maybe, but a fight all the same. I looked around again. The people didn't even notice me. They were eating, laughing, playing like this was normal. A kid kicked a ball into my garden, smashing my little plants. A lady tossed a cup into my grass. Smoke from the grill floated over my house. And my barn, oh, my barn was buzzing with people I didn't know, messing with stuff that wasn't theirs. Karen had done this. She'd planned it. She'd been eyeing my farm for weeks, waiting for her chance. And now she'd taken it, bold as anything, thinking I'd just let it happen. But she was wrong. So wrong. I was mad, yeah, but I stayed calm. I didn't shout or run at her. I just stood there, watching, thinking. She had no idea what was coming. No clue at all. She thought she could walk all over me, but I wasn't that guy. Not anymore. My farm was mine, and I was going to take it back. How? I didn't know yet. But I'd figure it out. Karen had started something big, and she was going to find out what happens when you mess with the wrong farmer. Stick around, this is about to get good. The party kept going. It didn't stop, not even for a second. Karen's friends were all over my farm, laughing loud and eating like it was their own backyard. I stood on my porch, my arms crossed, watching it all happen. My grass, my nice, green grass, was getting smashed under their sneakers and sandals. They didn't care. They just stomped around, chomping on burgers and hot dogs, dropping crumbs everywhere. I saw a kid toss a half-eaten cookie right onto the ground. Another guy flicked a greasy napkin into my flower bed, the one I'd worked hard to plant with little yellow flowers. Trash was piling up fast. Cups, plates, wrappers, it was all over my yard, like a big messy picnic I didn't ask for. I leaned against the porch railing, my eyes squinting in the sun. My dog, Buddy, sat next to me, his tail wagging slow. He didn't get it either. Look at this, Buddy, I whispered. They're wrecking everything. He barked once, soft and confused. I patted his head and kept watching. The noise was big, really big. People shouted over the music, kids squealed as they ran around, and the grill hissed with every flip of a burger. Smoke floated up, thick and gray, making my nose twitch. It smelled good, sure, but it didn't belong here. Not on my farm. Then my eyes went to the barn. My big, red barn. The door was still wide open, and Karen's friends were treating it like it was theirs. I started counting every person who walked in. 1, 2, 3, more and more kept going. A lady carried a stack of plates inside. A guy hauled in a cooler full of ice. Another lady came out with a tray of sandwiches, smiling like she owned the place. I counted 10 people in just a few minutes, all stomping through my barn. My special barn. The one my grandpa built, the one my dad painted, the one I fixed up with my own hands. It wasn't a party room. It was for hay and tools and my little tractor, not for their junk. I gritted my teeth, feeling hot inside. Then I saw something that made me even madder. Karen, she was over by the barn now, plugging a blender into my outlet. My electricity. She flipped it on, and it buzzed loud, mixing up some pink smoothie stuff. She poured it into cups and handed them out, smiling big like she was so proud. Try this, everyone, she yelled. It's my special recipe. Her friends clapped and cheered, sipping their drinks. I couldn't believe it. She was using my power, my barn, my everything and acting like it was all hers. She didn't even ask. Not one word. I could have yelled right then. I could have run over, pulled that plug out, and shouted, "Get off my farm." My hands were shaking, and my face felt warm. I wanted to scream so bad. But I didn't. I took a deep breath and stayed calm. Yelling wouldn't fix this, not yet. Karen thought she had me figured out. She thought I was just some quiet farmer who'd sit back and let her do whatever she wanted. She was wrong. Oh, she was so wrong. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not today. Not ever. I had a plan brewing in my head, and it was starting to take shape. What was it? Hang on, you'll see soon. Instead of yelling, I grabbed my phone from my pocket. It's just a plain old phone, nothing fancy, but it's got a camera. A good one. I swiped it on and hit the video button. The little red dot blinked, and I started recording. I held it steady, pointing it at everything. Every loud laugh click, I got it. Every spilled drink dripping onto my grass click, I got that too. Every piece of trash they tossed, every kid stomping my plants, every burger flipped on that grill, I caught it all. I zoomed in on Karen, bossing people around like she was the queen. "Put the chairs over there," she shouted at a guy. "No, no, more ice in the cooler," she snapped at a lady. I recorded every word, every wave of her hand. She didn't see me. She was too busy running her big, rude party. I moved slow, stepping off the porch and walking closer but not too close. I stayed sneaky, like a fox watching from the bushes. Buddy followed me, his paws quiet on the ground. I pointed my phone at the barn next. Inside, it was a mess. My workbench was covered with bowls and spoons. My tools, my hammer, my screwdriver, my wrench were pushed to the side, buried under napkins and cups. The blender whirred again, loud and annoying. A guy strung up more little lights, hanging them from my rafters. My hay bales? They were seats now, with people plopped down, eating chips and laughing. I zoomed in tight, getting every bit of it. This wasn't my barn anymore. It was theirs. And I had proof. The party kept growing. More people showed up, cars parked along my road, doors slamming as folks hopped out. They carried bags of food and more coolers, joining the crowd like ants at a picnic. I counted 20 people, then 30, then more. My yard was packed. The music got louder, some bouncy song with a beat that thumped in my chest. Kids chased each other, kicking up dirt. A ball rolled into my chicken coop, and the hens clucked like crazy, flapping their wings. I recorded that too. My poor chickens didn't sign up for this. Neither did I. Karen was everywhere. She'd bounce from the grill to the barn, then back to the tables, shouting orders the whole time. "We need more burgers," she yelled. "Someone grab the ketchup from the barn," she bossed. Her friends jumped to do it, like she was in charge of them and me. She'd smirk every time she passed by my porch, glancing at me like she was daring me to say something. I didn't. I just kept filming, quiet and steady. She had no idea what I was doing. No clue at all. She thought I was just standing there, too shy or scared to stop her. That's what she wanted, to push me around and watch me do nothing. But I wasn't nothing. I was something. Something big. I started noticing little things, small stuff that made me madder, but also smarter. Like how Karen kept checking her clipboard. She'd flip through pages, nod to herself, and scribble something down. What was she writing? Rules. Plans. I zoomed in with my phone and saw her pen moving fast. Maybe she was keeping track of her party, or maybe it was something else. Something sneakier. Then I saw her whisper to a guy in a blue shirt. He nodded and ran to the barn, coming back with a big trash bag. He started picking up some of the cups and wrappers, but not all of them. Just enough to make it look clean. I recorded that too. They were pretending to care about my farm, but they didn't. It was a show. A trick. Another thing I noticed. The food. They had tons of it, way more than a little barbecue needed. Burgers, hot dogs, chips, cookies, watermelon, smoothies. It was like a feast. Where did it all come from? Karen couldn't have carried it herself. Someone helped her. Maybe a lot of someones. I filmed a lady unloading a car, bags and bags of buns and meat. She waved at Karen like they were old pals. This wasn't a last-minute thing. This was planned. Big time planned. Karen had been cooking this up for a while, and I'd missed it. But now I saw it clear as day. The sun climbed higher, and the party got wilder. A kid knocked over a pitcher of lemonade, and it splashed all over my porch steps. I filmed it dripping down, sticky and wet. A guy tossed a chicken bone into my bushes. I got that too. Someone turned the music up even more, and my windows rattled. Buddy whined, hiding behind my legs. "It's okay, boy," I said, but it wasn't. Not really. My farm was a mess, and Karen was loving it. She danced a little by the grill, flipping burgers and laughing with her friends. She thought she'd won. She thought I'd just sit here and take it. But I wasn't sitting anymore. Recording wasn't enough, I needed more. I slipped my phone into my pocket and grabbed my old notebook from inside. It's just a little thing I use to jot down farm stuff, like when the cows need shots or the chickens lay extra eggs. I flipped it open and started writing. Every person in the barn, 10, 11, 12. Every piece of trash, a cup here, a plate there. Every loud yell from Karen, more ice. Fix the table. I wrote it all down, fast and neat. My phone had the pictures, but this was backup. Proof times 2. She wouldn't wiggle out of this. I peeked out the window, still writing. Karen was by the fence now, talking to a lady in a pink hat. They looked serious for a second, too serious for a party. Karen pointed at my house, then my barn, and the lady nodded. What were they saying? I couldn't hear, but I didn't like it. My gut told me this wasn't just a barbecue. It was something bigger. Something meaner. I wrote that down too. Karen talking sneaky by fence. She didn't know I was watching. She didn't know I was ready. The day stretched on. Hours passed, and the party didn't slow down. My yard was a disaster, grass flattened, trash everywhere, flowers wrecked. My barn was a kitchen, buzzing with people and noise. My electricity hummed, feeding their dumb blender. I could have yelled. I could have stormed out and shut it all down. But I didn't. I kept filming, kept writing, kept waiting. For what? You'll see soon. Karen thought I was just some quiet farmer who'd let this slide. She was dead wrong. I had a plan, a good one. And every laugh, every spill, every bossy word she said, it was making my plan stronger. She had no idea what was coming. None at all. Stick around, this is about to get real. The day stretched on. Hours passed, and the party didn't slow down. My yard was a disaster, grass flattened, trash everywhere, flowers wrecked. My barn was a kitchen, buzzing with people and noise. My electricity hummed, feeding their dumb blender. I could have yelled. I could have stormed out and shut it all down. But I didn't. I kept filming, kept writing, kept waiting. For what? You'll see soon. Karen thought I was just some quiet farmer who'd let this slide. She was dead wrong. I had a plan, a good one. And every laugh, every spill, every bossy word she said, it was making my plan stronger. She had no idea what was coming. None at all. Stick around, this is about to get real. I sat back on my porch, my notebook in one hand and my phone in the other. The sun was high now, blazing down hot and bright. Sweat trickled down my neck, but I didn't care. I was too busy watching. Too busy thinking. The party was like a storm that wouldn't stop. People kept eating, kept laughing, kept making a mess. I saw a guy spill a whole cup of soda on my grass, big, sticky splashes that soaked right in. I scribbled it in my notebook, soda spill by tall guy in red shirt. Then I filmed it, zooming in on the wet spot shining in the sun. Every little thing they did, I got it. Every single one. Karen was still running around, flapping her arms like a bossy bird. She'd yell at someone to move a table, then dart over to the grill to flip more burgers. Her yellow shirt was like a flashing light, I could spot her anywhere. She'd stop sometimes, sip her smoothie, and smirk at her friends. They'd laugh with her, nodding like she was the smartest person ever. Great idea, Karen. I heard one lady say. This place is perfect, a guy shouted. Perfect. My farm wasn't perfect for them. It was perfect for me, for my cows, my chickens, my quiet days. But they didn't care. They just kept going, louder and messy by the minute. I leaned forward, counting the people in my barn again. 15 now. 15 strangers walking in and out, carrying stuff, eating stuff, touching stuff. I saw a kid climb up on my hay bales, jumping like it was a playground. My hay. It's for my cows, not for bouncing. I wrote it down, kid in blue shorts on hay. Then I filmed him, catching the way he giggled and flopped down. My barn wasn't a barn anymore, it was their party clubhouse. And that blender? It was still going, whirring loud every few minutes. Karen kept pouring smoothies, handing them out like candy. My electricity bill was going to be huge, and she didn't even blink. Buddy whined again, pressing his nose against my leg. I know, boy, I said, scratching his ears. It's a mess. He looked up at me with those big, sad eyes, like he wanted it to stop. I did too. But I wasn't ready yet. I had to be smart. I had to wait. So I kept my phone rolling, the little red dot blinking as it saved everything. I got a lady dropping a plate of chips crumbs all over my barn floor. I got a guy kicking a ball into my fence, making it wobble. I got Karen yelling, "More napkins, quick," at some poor kid who ran to obey her. Every move, every sound, I had it all. Then something new happened. I saw a car pull up, a shiny black one, fancier than the others. A lady stepped out, wearing a big hat and sunglasses. She looked important, like someone who didn't mess around. Karen rushed over to her, all smiles and bouncy steps. They hugged, and Karen pointed at my barn, then my house. The lady nodded, pulling out her own clipboard. Another clipboard. What was this, a bossy people club? I zoomed in with my phone, trying to catch their faces clear. They were talking fast, their heads close together. I couldn't hear them, the music was too loud, but I wrote it down, fancy lady in black car with Karen. Sneaky talk by road. This was weird. Really weird. Who was she? Why was Karen so happy to see her? I kept filming, my heart beating a little faster. The fancy lady walked toward the barn, her heels clicking on my gravel path. Karen followed, talking a mile a minute. They went inside, and I lost sight of them for a bit. But then I saw them through the barn window, two shadows moving around. The lady pointed at my workbench, then my hay bales, and Karen nodded like crazy. Were they planning something? Something more than just a party? My stomach twisted. This wasn't good. I scribbled it fast, fancy lady and Karen in barn pointing at stuff. I had to know more, but I couldn't get closer, not yet. The party roared on outside. A kid ran by my porch, waving a hot dog in the air. Mustard dripped off it, plopping right onto my steps. I groaned and filmed it, another mess to clean. Then I saw a guy by the grill toss a burnt burger into my bushes. My bushes. I wrote it down, burnt burger in bushes by grill guy. Every little thing they did was like a poke in my side, making me madder and madder. But I stayed cool. I had to. My plan was growing, piece by piece, and all this stuff, the trash, the noise, the sneaky talks, it was fuel. Fuel for what I was going to do. I flipped my notebook to a new page and kept writing. The sun was lower now, turning the sky orange and pink. Shadows stretched long across my yard, but the party didn't care. They turned on more lights, little string lights they'd hung up everywhere. My farm glowed like a fair, bright and loud. I filmed the lights twinkling, then panned to the trash piles growing bigger. Cups rolled in the breeze. Wrappers stuck to my fence. A lady laughed so hard she spilled her smoothie on my grass, pink goo soaking in deep. I got it all, every drop, every giggle. Karen came out of the barn with the fancy lady, both smiling like they'd won a prize. They walked to the grill, and Karen grabbed a burger, handing it to her. Best barbecue ever, right? Karen said loud enough for me to hear. The lady nodded, taking a big bite. Perfect spot, she mumbled through her food. Perfect spot. My farm wasn't their spot. I wrote it down, Karen and fancy lady say perfect spot by grill. My hand shook a little as I wrote. This was more than a party, I could feel it. They were up to something, and I was starting to figure it out. I looked at my phone, almost full of videos now. Good thing I had extra space. I kept recording, catching Karen dancing by the tables, her sun hat bouncing. She didn't see me. Didn't know I was building a mountain of proof. Every time she yelled, every time her friends trashed my place, it was another brick in my wall. A wall she'd crash into soon. I smirked a little, just to myself. She thought I was quiet, weak, easy to push around. But I wasn't. I was watching. Waiting. Planning. Then I saw something else, something small but big. A guy in a green shirt walked up to Karen, holding a paper. He whispered to her, and she took it, reading fast. Her face changed, less smiley, more serious. She folded the paper and stuffed it in her pocket, then waved the guy away. What was that? A note? A secret? I couldn't zoom in enough, but I filmed it anyway. Green shirt guy gives Karen paper, look sneaky, I wrote. My notebook was filling up fast, page after page of their mess and their tricks. I didn't know what the paper meant, but it was another clue. Another piece of my plan. The party kept going, loud and wild. Kids screamed as they played tag, dodging tables. The blender buzzed again, more smoothies, more of my electricity. A lady tripped and dropped a whole tray of cookies, crumbs flying everywhere. I filmed it, wrote it, cookie drop by clumsy lady in barn. My yard was a dump now, my barn a zoo. But I stayed calm, my pen moving, my phone rolling. Karen had no idea I was onto her. No idea I was ready to fight back. The sun dipped lower, almost gone. The sky was purple now, and the lights glowed brighter. Karen clapped her hands, yelling, "Time for games." Her friends cheered, grabbing stuff for whatever she had planned. I didn't care about their games, I cared about my farm. My home. My peace. She'd taken it all, but not for long. I had my videos, my notes, my proof. What was I waiting for? Oh, you'll see soon. Really soon. Karen thought she was winning, but she wasn't. I had a plan, a sneaky, smart, perfect plan. And every laugh, every spill, every bossy yell? It was making it better. Stick around, this is about to get wild. By afternoon, the party was in full swing. The sun was high and hot, shining down on my farm like a big spotlight. Karen's barbecue was louder than ever. People were everywhere eating, laughing, running around. My yard was a mess, grass smashed flat, trash all over, cups and plates rolling in the breeze. The grill puffed smoke, and the music thumped so loud my porch shook a little. Kids screamed as they played tag, dodging tables and chairs. My barn was still a kitchen, buzzing with folks mixing drinks and stacking food. It was wild, like a circus had landed right on my land. I'd been watching it all from my porch for hours, my phone full of videos and my notebook packed with notes. Every spill, every yell, every sneaky thing Karen did, I had it. She didn't know. She thought I was just some quiet guy who'd let her take over. But I wasn't. I was done waiting. The party was big now, maybe 50 people or more, and Karen was loving it. She strutted around like a queen, her yellow shirt bright and her sun hat flopping as she walked. She'd wave her spatula like a wand, telling everyone what to do. "Put more burgers on," she shouted at the grill guy. "Bring the lemonade out here," she bossed a lady by the barn. Her friends jumped to listen, smiling and nodding like she was the best. She stopped in the middle of my yard, hands on her hips, looking proud. "Isn't this great?" she yelled loud enough for everyone to hear. "We're so lucky to use this spot. It's perfect." Her spot. My farm. I felt my face get hot. She was acting like she owned it, like I didn't matter at all. Her friends cheered, clapping and raising their cups. "Yeah, Karen," a guy shouted. "Best barbecue ever," a lady added. They were eating it up, her words, her food, my land. She turned around, smirking at them, soaking it all in. She didn't even look at me. Didn't care I was there. She thought she'd won. That's when I made my move. I'd had enough. My boots hit the porch steps slow and steady as I walked down. My heart was thumping, but I kept my face calm like nothing big was happening. Buddy followed me, his tail wagging a little, like he knew something was up. I stuffed my notebook in my back pocket and gripped my phone tight. The crowd didn't notice me at first, they were too busy laughing and eating. The music kept playing, bouncy and loud. Karen kept strutting, flipping a burger and chatting with a guy in a blue shirt. She was so sure of herself. So sure I'd just sit there and let it happen. I walked right through the yard, stepping over cups and wrappers. A kid ran past me, almost bumping my leg, but I kept going. My eyes were on Karen. She didn't see me coming, not yet. I got closer, the smell of smoke and grilled meat filling my nose. The blender whirred from the barn, mixing more of her dumb smoothies with my electricity. I could hear her voice over the noise, sharp and bossy. "Move that table over there," she snapped at someone. "We need more chairs," she yelled at another. She was in charge, and she loved it. But not for long. I stopped a few feet away, right behind her. The crowd was all around, but it felt like just me and her for a second. I took a deep breath and said, "Karen." My voice was low but clear. She didn't hear me at first, she was too busy yelling. "Karen." I said again, louder this time. She spun around, her spatula still in her hand, burger grease dripping off it. Her eyes landed on me, and she froze for a tiny moment. Then she smiled, that fake, sneaky smile she always used. "Oh, Jake," she said, all cheery. "Finally joining us? Grab a plate." I didn't smile back. I didn't move. I just looked at her, calm as could be. "Karen," I said slow, "this is my farm." Her smile twitched a little, but she kept it up. "You didn't ask," I went on. "You're trespassing." My words were simple, but they hit hard. Trespassing, that's a big word, but it just means she was on my land when she wasn't supposed to be. Her friends nearby got quieter, turning to listen. The music kept going, but it felt far away now. Karen blinked at me, then laughed. Laughed right in my face. "Oh, Jake, relax," she said, waving her spatula like it was nothing. "It's just a barbecue. No big deal." She turned back to the grill, flipping a burger like I hadn't said a word. Her laugh was loud and mean, like she thought I was silly. Like I couldn't stop her. Some of her friends laughed too, soft and nervous, looking at me then back at her. She strutted a little more, tossing her head. "Go get a drink, Jake," she called over her shoulder. "Have some fun for once." That's when I did it. I held up my phone, my thumb on the screen. "No, Karen," I said, loud and firm. "You're done." She turned back, frowning now, her spatula hanging in the air. I hit play on my video, the one I'd been recording all day. The sound blasted out, loud enough for everyone to hear. It was her voice, clear as day, echoing across the yard. "More burgers, now," the phone shouted. "Put the chairs over there," it bossed. "We need more ice," it snapped. Every yell, every order she'd given, it was all there. I turned the phone so the crowd could see the screen too. It showed her strutting, her friends trashing my grass, kids jumping in my barn. Everything. Her smirk vanished. Gone, just like that. Her mouth dropped open, and her eyes got wide. The crowd went quiet, super quiet. No laughs, no cheers, just the video playing loud. I kept it going, letting it roll. It showed the soda spills, the trash piles, the blender whirring in my barn. Her voice kept barking orders, bossy and rude. "This is my farm," I said over it, my voice steady. "Not yours. You took it without asking." The video looped her yelling again, and her face turned pink, then red. She didn't know what to say. She just stared at me, then at the phone, then at her friends. But I wasn't done. Oh no, I had more. I dropped the bomb, the big one. "I've already called the sheriff," I said, loud and clear. "He's on his way." The words hung in the air like thunder. The crowd froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Karen's spatula slipped from her hand, clattering on the ground. Her face went from red to white, pale as a ghost. What?" she stammered, her voice shaky. "The sheriff." She looked around, like she thought I was joking. But I wasn't. I pulled my phone closer, showing her the call log. There it was, Sheriff Tom's number, dialed 10 minutes ago. I'd called him quiet, when I ducked inside earlier. Told him everything: trespassing, noise, the mess. He'd said, "I'll be there soon, Jake." And he meant it. The music kept playing, but it sounded silly now, like a clown song at a serious moment. Karen's friends stared at her, then at me. Some stepped back, clutching their plates. A kid dropped his hot dog, and it rolled into the dirt. "You can't do this," Karen finally said, her voice high and squeaky. "It's just a party." But it wasn't just a party. It was my farm, my home, and she'd crossed the line. I held up my phone again, letting the video play louder. "You didn't ask," I said. "You trashed my place. You used my barn, my power, my land. That's trespassing, Karen. And the sheriff's gonna tell you the same thing." Her eyes darted around, looking for help. Her friends didn't move, they just watched, mouths open. The fancy lady from the black car was there too, standing by the barn. She took off her sunglasses, staring at me hard. I didn't care. I kept my eyes on Karen. "You thought I'd let this slide," I said. "You thought I was too quiet to fight back. But I'm not." I tapped my phone off, the video stopping. The silence was heavy, like a big blanket over everything. Even the blender in the barn went quiet. Someone had unplugged it. Karen's hands shook. She tried to laugh again, but it sounded weird, weak and scared. "Jake, come on," she said. "You're overreacting." Overreacting? My yard was a dump. My barn was a mess. My peace was gone. I shook my head. "No, Karen. You're done here." I pointed at the road. "Sheriff's coming. You better figure out what to say." Her face twisted, like she wanted to yell, but nothing came out. She knew I wasn't kidding. She knew she'd lost. The crowd started whispering, low and fast. "Sheriff," one guy mumbled. "Is he serious?" a lady asked. They looked at Karen, then at me, then at each other. Some grabbed their kids, pulling them close. Others dropped their food, stepping away from the tables. The party wasn't fun anymore, it was falling apart. Karen spun around, trying to fix it. "Everyone, calm down," she shouted. "He's bluffing. It's fine." But no one listened. They saw my phone. They heard my words. They knew. I stood there, boots planted firm, Buddy by my side. The sun was dipping now, turning the sky orange. The air felt cooler, but I was warm with something strong. I'd taken my farm back, right there, right then. Karen didn't see it coming, did she? Not one bit. She thought she was the queen, but I'd knocked her crown off. The sheriff's truck would roll up any minute. I could almost hear the gravel crunching already. Karen's red face, her wide eyes, her shaky hands, she was caught. And everyone saw it. The party was dead silent now, waiting. Karen's big day was over, and mine was just starting. She'd pushed me too far, and I'd pushed back hard. What happens next? Oh, it's coming fast. Stick around, you won't believe how this ends. Minutes later, the sheriff pulled up. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky all orange and pink, when I heard the rumble of his truck. It was a big, dusty thing, with red and blue lights on top that weren't flashing yet. Gravel crunched loud under the tires as he rolled into my yard, right past Karen's messy party. I'd been waiting for this, my heart was thumping, but I stayed calm. The crowd went quiet, real quiet, like someone turned off the noise with a switch. Even the music stopped, someone had yanked the speaker plug. Karen's friends froze, holding their plates and cups, staring at the truck. Karen spun around, her spatula still in her hand, her face all red and sweaty. She didn't look like a queen anymore. The sheriff stepped out, big and tall in his brown uniform. His name's Tom, Sheriff Tom, and he's a good guy. He's got a deep voice and a hat that shades his eyes. I've known him forever, since I was a kid. He's the kind who helps folks, but he doesn't mess around when something's wrong. He slammed his truck door and walked over, boots stomping steady on my ground. The crowd parted a little, making way. Karen's eyes got wide, and she dropped her spatula again. It clattered in the dirt. "What's this?" she said, her voice high and squeaky. But I didn't say anything yet. I just nodded at Sheriff Tom, ready to show him everything. "Hey, Jake," Tom said, tipping his hat a little. "Got a call about some trouble. What's going on?" His voice was calm, but strong, like he meant business. I stepped forward, my phone in one hand and a rolled up paper in the other. "Sheriff," I said, "this is my farm." "All of it?" "They're here without asking trespassing." I unrolled the paper. It was my property lines, a map my dad gave me years ago. It showed every inch of my land, clear as day. My house, my barn, my yard, all mine, marked with little lines and numbers. I handed it to Tom, and he took it, squinting at it under the fading sun. Then I held up my phone. "And this," I said, "is proof." I hit play again, loud and clear. The video started, Karen's voice blasting out, bossing everyone around. "More burgers," it yelled. "Move the chairs," it snapped. The screen showed her strutting, her friends trashing my grass, kids jumping in my barn. It showed the spilled soda, the cups everywhere, the blender whirring with my electricity. Tom watched it all, his face getting serious. The crowd stayed silent, just listening to Karen's voice echo over my yard. Her face went from red to white, pale like milk. She didn't smirk now. She didn't laugh. She just stared, her mouth open a little. Tom handed me back the map and crossed his arms. "Looks clear to me, Jake," he said. "This is your land. Papers say so. Video says they're here uninvited." He turned to Karen, his eyes hard under his hat. "Ma'am," he said, "you got anything to say?" Karen blinked fast, like she was waking up from a dream. It's just a little party," she stammered, waving her hands. "No big deal. We're just having fun." Her voice was shaky, and she tried to smile, but it looked all wrong, like she was scared. Sheriff Tom didn't smile back. "Doesn't matter," he said, slow and firm. "This is private property." Jake didn't say yes. "You're trespassing against the law." He pointed at her, then at the crowd. "You're leaving. Now." His words were like a hammer hitting a nail. Bam, done. No arguing. Karen's mouth flapped open, then shut, then open again. But she sputtered. "We didn't mean any harm." Tom shook his head. "Don't care. It's his farm. You go." The crowd started moving, slow at first, then fast. Karen's friends didn't wait for her to say anything. They grabbed their stuff quick, tripping over chairs as they went. A lady dropped a plate, and it cracked on the ground. She didn't even stop to pick it up. A guy yanked a cooler off a table, spilling ice all over my grass. Kids whined as their moms pulled them away, leaving toys and balls behind. "Come on, let's go," someone shouted. "Hurry up," another yelled. Tables wobbled as people bumped them, knocking cups and food everywhere. It was chaos, crazy, messy chaos, but they were leaving. Finally leaving. Karen didn't move at first. She just stood there, staring at Tom, then at me. Her eyes were sharp, like little knives. "You can't do this, Jake," she snapped, her voice loud but wobbly. "It's just a barbecue." I stepped closer, looking right at her. "It's my farm, Karen," I said, calm and clear. "You didn't ask. You trashed it. You're done." She glared at me, her hands shaking, but she couldn't fight back. Not with Tom there. Not with my proof. She was stuck. Tom put his hand on his belt, near his radio. "Ma'am," he said again, "I won't ask twice. Pack up. Go." Karen huffed, loud and mad, but she turned around. She grabbed her grill, still hot, still smoky, and yanked it hard. The legs scraped my ground, leaving marks. "Fine," she shouted. "We're going. Happy now, Jake?" She didn't wait for me to answer. She stormed off, dragging the grill behind her, her sun hat flopping like it was mad too. Her friends followed, piling stuff into cars, tables, chairs, coolers, all of it. Engines started, loud and grumbly, as they peeled out one by one. I watched it all from my yard, Buddy sitting by my feet. Tom stayed too, making sure they left. The fancy lady from the black car, she was the last to go. She gave me a long, cold look, then slid into her seat and drove off slow. Karen was in her car now, slamming the door so hard I heard it from where I stood. She glared at me through the window, her face all twisted up. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just looked back, steady and strong. She'd lost, and she knew it. Her tires spun gravel as she sped away, the last of her party disappearing down the road. By sunset, my farm was quiet again. The sky was all purple and gold, soft and pretty. The noise was gone, no music, no yelling, no blender buzzing. Just the wind, rustling my trees, and Buddy's little huff as he sniffed the air. I walked around, looking at what was left. Trash was everywhere, cups, wrappers, a broken plate. My grass was flat, my flowers squashed, my barn a mess with spilled food and lights still hanging. But it was mine again. All mine. No Karen. No strangers. Just me and my farm. I went to the barn, sliding the big door shut. It creaked loud, but it felt good, like locking a box tight. Inside, I'd clean up later, pick up the crumbs, stack my tools, fix my hay bales. For now, I just wanted the quiet. I walked back to my porch and sat down, my boots kicking off dirt. Buddy plopped next to me, his head on my knee. "We did it, boy," I said, scratching his ears. He wagged his tail, happy again. The sheriff's truck was still there. Tom was writing something in a little book, probably about Karen. He looked up and waved. "All good, Jake," he called. "Yeah," I said. "Thanks, Tom." He nodded and got in his truck, driving off slow as the last light faded. I leaned back, breathing deep. The air smelled clean now, no smoke, no meat, just farm air. Down the road, the neighbors' houses were dark. Those folks who'd cheered Karen on? The ones who clapped and ate her food? They wouldn't even look at me now. I'd seen them peeking from their windows as the sheriff rolled up. They ducked away fast when I glanced over. They knew I'd won. They knew Karen was wrong. No one waved at me tonight, and that was fine. I didn't need their waves. I had my farm back, and that's what mattered. I thought about it all, how Karen had strutted in, how she'd laughed, how she'd thought she could take over. She'd pushed me too far, and I'd pushed back. My phone, my map, my call to Tom, it worked. Justice happened. That's a big word, but it just means things got fixed right. Karen didn't get away with it. She had to leave, mad and embarrassed, dragging her grill like a kid with a broken toy. Her friends ran off, tripping and scared. My farm was mine again, quiet and safe. And me? I'd stood up for it. Stood up tall. The stars came out, twinkling little dots in the dark. I sat there a long time, just listening. Crickets chirped soft. An owl hooted somewhere far off. Buddy snored a little, cozy by my side. I smiled, first time all day. It felt good. Real good. Karen was gone. Her mess was still here, but I'd clean it tomorrow. Tonight, I just wanted this, the peace, the quiet, the win. I'd fought for what was mine, and I'd got it. No one would mess with my farm again, not Karen, not anyone. And that was the best feeling ever. So, there you have it, a peaceful farmer, a bossy Karen, and a lesson she'll never forget. My name's Jake, and I'm that farmer. I love my little farm with its big red barn, my mooing cows, my clucking chickens, and my fluffy dog, Buddy. I like quiet days, fresh air, and wide open spaces. That's my life, and it's a good one. But then Karen came along, loud, pushy Karen with her clipboard and her rules. She thought she could take over my farm, turn it into her party place, and boss everyone around. She laughed and smirked, acting like I didn't matter. Like I'd just sit there and let her do it. But I didn't. I stood up, and now she's gone, and my farm is mine again. What a day, huh? Let's think about this for a minute. Karen was loud, super loud. She yelled at her friends, waved her spatula, and strutted around my yard like she was the queen of everything. She had a big voice and a big attitude. She thought that made her strong. She thought it meant she could walk all over me, take my stuff, and do whatever she wanted. Lots of people are like that, you know? They talk big, act big, and make a lot of noise. They think it scares people. They think it means they win. And sometimes, it works. People get quiet, step back, and let them have their way. But not always. Not with me. See, I'm not loud. I don't yell or strut or wave stuff around. I'm a farmer. I wake up early, feed my animals, fix my fences, and watch the sun go down. I like things simple and calm. Karen thought that made me weak. She thought because I didn't shout back, because I didn't run at her right away, I'd just roll over and let her win. But being quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're scared. Sometimes, it means you're thinking. Sometimes, it means you're waiting for the right moment. And when that moment comes, oh boy, watch out. That's what happened here. Karen had her party, her big, messy barbecue right on my farm. She didn't ask me. She didn't care. She brought her grill, her tables, her friends, and turned my barn into a kitchen. She used my electricity, trashed my grass, and laughed in my face when I told her to stop. She thought she'd get away with it. She thought I'd just shrug and go inside. But I didn't. I grabbed my phone, recorded everything, called the sheriff, and showed her the truth. I stood my ground, quiet but strong, and the truth came out. It wasn't loud or flashy, but it was powerful. And it was sweeter than any barbecue burger she cooked. What do you think about that? Would you have done the same? If someone came to your house or your yard, or your favorite spot and tried to take it over, what would you do? Would you yell and fight right away? Or would you wait, watch, and find a smart way to fix it? There's no wrong answer, really. Everyone's different. Some people like to be loud, they'd march right up to Karen and tell her off. Others, like me, stay quiet and plan. Both can work. The big thing is standing up, doing something when someone tries to push you around. What would you pick? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to know. Let's talk about Karen for a second. She's not the only one out there, you know. There are lots of Karens, people who think they can take what's yours just because they're loud or bossy. Maybe you've met one. Maybe it's a kid at school who grabs your pencil without asking. Or a friend who always picks the game and never lets you choose. Or even a grown-up who acts like they're in charge of everything. They're loud, they're pushy, and they think you won't stop them. But you can. You don't have to be loud back, you just have to be brave. Brave enough to say, no, this is mine, and mean it. That's what I did. I didn't shout at Karen. I didn't run around waving my arms. I stayed calm, used my phone, and got help from Sheriff Tom. It wasn't a big noisy fight, it was a quiet win. And when it was over, Karen had to pack up her grill and go. Her friends ran off, tripping over stuff, and my farm got quiet again. The truth came out, my farm was mine, not hers, and she couldn't argue with that. She glared at me, mad as anything, but she couldn't change it. Justice happened. That's when bad stuff gets fixed and good stuff wins. And it felt awesome. Think about this, too. Karen didn't see it coming. She thought I was just a quiet farmer, too shy or soft to do anything. She was wrong. The quiet ones. They're tricky sometimes. They don't make a lot of noise, so you don't notice them planning. You don't see them getting ready. And then bam, they surprise you. That's me. I surprised Karen big time. She strutted around like she owned my farm, but I had a plan. I had my videos, my map, my sheriff call. She didn't expect it, and that's why it worked. Quiet can be strong, really strong. So, here's a little idea for you. Next time someone tries to take what's yours, your toy, your spot, your turn, maybe they'll think twice. Maybe they'll look at you and wonder, is this one of those quiet ones? The ones who don't just sit there. Because you don't have to let them win. You can stand up, loud or quiet, fast or slow, whatever feels right for you. Maybe you'll grab a phone like me and get proof. Maybe you'll tell a teacher or a grown-up. Or maybe you'll just say no and stick to it. The point is, you've got power. Even if you're not loud, even if you're not big, you can make things right. Let's imagine something fun. Picture Karen driving home that day, her grill rattling in her car. She's mad, super mad. Her face is all scrunched up, and she's muttering to herself. Stupid Jake, she might say. Stupid sheriff. She's got mustard on her shirt, her sun hat's crooked, and her big party's over. Her friends aren't calling her queen anymore, they're probably mad at her too. She thought she'd have this awesome day, bossing everyone around on my farm, but nope. She lost. And me? I'm sitting on my porch, Buddy by my side, watching the stars come out. My farm's quiet, my barn's mine again, and I'm smiling. Who won that round? I did. Quiet little Jake. What's the big lesson here? Let's think. Maybe it's this: don't let people walk all over you, even if they're loud and bossy. You don't have to be loud back, you just have to be smart and brave. Karen learned that the hard way. She'll never forget it. Every time she sees my farm, she'll remember. She'll remember the sheriff, the video, the way her party fell apart. And maybe next time, she'll ask before she barges in somewhere. Maybe she'll think, better not mess with the quiet ones. That's a good lesson for her and for anyone like her. You know what's cool? This story's for you too. Yeah, you. You're reading this or maybe listening and you're part of it now. You're the one who gets to decide what you'd do. Would you fight like me? Would you use a phone or a sheriff or something else? It's your turn to think about it. Maybe you've got your own Karen out there, someone who's loud and pushy. Maybe you've already stood up to them, or maybe you will someday. Either way, you've got what it takes. You're strong, even if you're quiet, even if you're small. You can win, just like I did. Let's wrap this up with a little picture in your head. Imagine my farm at night, after all this happened. The sky's dark, full of twinkly stars. The wind's soft, brushing my trees. My cows are sleeping, my chickens are cozy in their coop, and Buddy's snoring next to me on the porch. The trash is still there, I'll clean it tomorrow, but the quiet is back. The peace is back. Karen's gone, her grill's gone, her noise is gone. It's just me and my farm, like it's supposed to be. I stood up for it, and it feels so good, like a big, warm hug from the world. That's what happens when you don't give up. So, what do you think? Did you like this story? Did it make you cheer when Karen had to leave? Tell me in the comments, I really want to hear. Tell me where you're reading from, too. Are you at home? At school? Somewhere cool? And hey, if you've got your own story about standing up to someone bossy, share that. We can all learn from each other. Stories like this, they're not just fun. They're big. They show us we can do stuff, even when it's hard. One last thing, keep this in your pocket, okay? The next time someone tries to take what's yours, remember me. Remember Jake, the quiet farmer who didn't let Karen win. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to shout to be brave. You can stand your ground, find your way, and make the truth come out. And when it does, it's the best feeling ever, sweeter than any barbecue, any smoothie, any party. Because the quiet ones, they're the ones you don't see coming. And that's the real power.